Hello, good morning, everyone. And for those who are watching us from a different time zone, good afternoon or good evening wherever you are. And my name is Marilyn. For those who are new in this platform, I'm the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited or CTS. And we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learners and action takers to transform and thrive in all aspects by co creating, contextualizing, and customizing programs for them with our world class resources. We have served over 3,000 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries, including Petronas, Sony Mobile, PruLife UK, Ayala Group, Tencent, Jollibee Foods Corporation, and Shell, to name a few. And the reason why we are organizing several interventions, including this interview, is because we would like to help leaders who don't know how to stay relevant and adapt to the next normal, those who find it stressful to lead and ensure performance of a hybrid team, and for those who are afraid that they cannot keep their team and business. So, to stay relevant and continue to lead more effectively in any situation, do join us in these interventions. So, for today, I'm super excited, and it's my great pleasure to introduce our leader for today. Shu-Tze is comes with over 25 years of experience in global corporation and consulting firms. She is the chief organizational and people strategist who specializes in strategic business planning, enterprise-wide sustainable digital transformation, goals alignment, performance management, and audit C-suite succession and leadership development. She has worked with many industries, particularly in the financial institutions, airlines, telecommunications, healthcare, government ministries, agriculture, manufacturing, semiconductors, and education industries. She helps organizations accelerate the agility, resilience, effectiveness, and capability to unlock the potential of their business strategy, operations, and culture. She is best known for her objectivity, solution focused and principled and purpose driven approach with sharp eyes on organizational numbers. And without so much further ado, I'd like to bring in Shuche. Hello, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly.
Yeah, you pronounced it correctly. Yeah. Hi,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Hi, Marilyn.
Yeah, it's my great pleasure to have you. And just for the information of our audience, we've actually met each other through a common mastermind that we are in, the
Mhm.
Titanium Mastermind by Vince Tan. And we've met each other for coffee in the last, was that last
Last
month?
month in
Last
December. Yeah,
in
December
December.
16. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we've met each other in December finally to have coffee and chat, and I really enjoyed the conversation, and I thought it will be like advantageous for those who will be listening today, um like to be able to join us in the conversation, right? So this is not about the just an interview between me and Shuchi. It's also like, an invitation for everyone to join us in this conversation. So before we start, I'll just like to acknowledge it's saying LinkedIn user, so I guess you have to like accept the StreamYard. um it's Suresh,
Mm.
in the same field, I believe. Okay. So, and yeah, hello. And again, good morning, everyone. And feel free to join us, give us your take or your summary or even like questions in this conversation. So, to start with, I'd like to ask you this. Generally, it's not a question, but it's for you to be able to share with us your leadership experiences. If you have like favorite influencers or a favorite leadership style that you'd like to share with us, feel free to do so.
Mm. Well, uh, well, leadership is definitely a huge topic, right?
Mhm.
And if we look at from during even as a as a young children,
Mm-hmm.
how we play with our friends, we can already see leadership in its form, right?
True.
And how a parents take care of a family, how they lead their children, how we relate with one another, our siblings, right? How do we influence one another? I mean, that itself is already leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about leadership, it actually covers a lot of things. Yeah. So but I always like to break it down to three main area.
Mm-hmm.
One is of course self leadership, or I call it self mastery.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is people mastery, dealing with individuals, or a group of people. And of course, the third one is result mastery, the
Mm-hmm.
things that we desire and want to achieve in our life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a very quick intro. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I understand from like the introduction that you've also worked in corporate world in previously, right? So are these like usually like in what industry have you actually
Yeah.
worked with, and like what type of leadership post have you actually uh, been to before you
Mm.
actually started your own consulting company?
Well, I grew in my career quite quickly. In fact, in my first job itself was already the head of a department of a education industry.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
is a three team member, yeah,
Mhm,
and I take care of one part of it, the student affairs we call it.
mhm, mhm,
And the second job, I went into consulting. Then after that, I became a head of L&D
mhm,
for a global BPO in Malaysia.
mhm,
Uh, then after I went to a bank,
mhm.
and I had a privilege to be allowed to actually create what is looking at what is missing in the organizations, and actually
Right.
suggest to them what to create and actually bring that creation
Mhm,
in.
mhm,
So then after that I went back to consulting, was acting country head of a consulting global consulting firm.
mhm,
And then a conglomerates, head
mhm.
two conglomerates. Both are local. One is quite a small size, the other one is the largest conglomerates in Malaysia.
Mhm,
Then my last one was insurance company,
mhm.
yeah, heading the what do you call that, the culture. The organizations went through a digital transformation, so I handles the people leadership culture part of transformation. So that was my last, and I came out on my own in 2017. Yeah.
Oh, wow, it's been a
Yeah.
while. And it's nice to hear like, the type of industries that you work with, quite varied, I would say. And that's similar to like what you're doing right now. And again, leadership is for all industries or for
Yes.
anyone, right?
For
As
all
you
industry, for all levels.
exactly. And
Yes.
like what you've mentioned, earlier, it's really about self mastery, people mastery, and result mastery. And so that made me curious to know, how would you define, or what is leadership for you, having said that?
Yeah. Well, leadership at a personal level is really about the ability to be a better person every single day. So my mantra is that 1%. I'm sure those who have like attended a lot of trainings, right? We heard of this like 1% better, right? So how
Mhm.
can I be a better version than yesterday? Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's personal leadership. But of course there are a lot of things, like
Mhm.
the principles, the values that you hold, you live up to. It's not just talking about that, but also living up to it, right? The reflections of the lessons that we learned, the mistake that we went through. Yes, we beat ourselves up. I do. We cried over it, but more importantly is we learn from every lessons that we gone through.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's personal, a people, a self leadership.
Mhm.
Um, and when we start to master ourselves, and when I talk about mastering ourselves, right, it is not just the work that we do, but it's also our health, our mental, emotional health,
Mhm.
right? Um, So the six areas of health, I mean, we talk about like sleep,
Mm-hmm.
eating the right food, discipline in timely eating, right? And all those things are really important. Environment that we put ourselves in, either emotional environment, that means
True.
you choose who you want to mingle with, right? And also physical environment. You don't want to be in an environment where there are pollutions. It's going to, hurt you as a person too, right? So there are so many areas of leadership at self leadership, and I always believe this: when we get good at the physical part of ourselves, naturally the emotional, the psychological part of us will
Mm-hmm.
continue to start growing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
so start with that. Yeah.
Wow, I really appreciate how you reminded us the importance of really taking care of ourselves. Because at the end of the day, like what you've mentioned, leadership is also about mastery. So it starts with us, right? How we take care of ourselves, our health, and the people around us, right? Because it creates a ripple effect somehow, right? When we take care of ourselves, when we love ourselves, when we lead ourselves and master it. Because again, like what you've mentioned, on a personal level, you find leadership is really making yourself better on a daily basis, right? And that's continuous learning for us. That's a journey that we have to take as a leader as well. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that definition. And in my earlier description or introduction, I have made mention about the next normal. I mean, you've been to like several different industries, and at the same time, you've headed transformation, right? So I think it's nothing far away from this next question on how would you define and describe the next normal.
Okay. Yeah, I do a lot of work on being future ready. Yeah, and
Mhm.
the future is already now. Yeah,
Okay.
the only thing is that what is the new normal?
Mhm.
That definition, it is still evolving.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we by now, I think everybody already are aware, the
Mhm.
year 2020 is a whole reset of everything in life. Every aspect, every industry, every continent, everything, that we used to know. The way
Exactly.
of business model has changed tremendously. The
Mhm.
latest one, in the market that is transforming the whole world is chat GDP, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, so a lot of things are still evolving, changing. And if we think back a year ago, it was the metaverse, right? Yeah, and
Yes.
of course metaverse now, a bit, at the background at the moment. Yeah. So what is the next new thing that's going to change the way how we interact, the way how we work, the way of businesses and business model? We don't know yet. It is still it is still coming up, right? So the settlement of the next normal, the crystallization of next normal is not here yet. Today we are in a environment what we call there's this word called VUCA. I would rather call it extreme VUCA, right? VUCA stands for volatility. Yeah, so things are, like for example, the share market was up, was down, was up, was down in the last 2 months or so,
Mhm.
right? And then you have also uncertainty. A lot of things and decisions that we used to make, it doesn't give us the result that we used to get anymore, right?
True.
Things evolve. Yeah, so it's very uncertain
Exactly.
now.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then you also have things are very complex. Decisions making is no longer linear, right? There's a lot of independency that we don't even know until when we journey down and then realize that, oh, I didn't know there's this thing that I need to watch out also, or this person or this thing that I have to be aware. So right, so it's highly complex. And the other one is of course highly ambiguous. Yeah, so we are entering into a world that there are so many things that we haven't experienced before. Chat
Mhm.
GPT is one of them, right? So for me, it's exciting because when there is a time where opportunities are open up for everybody again. All right.
Mhm. True.
So the key question then is, do we have this opportunistic acumen?
Mhm.
Right? Yeah. So we talk about like financial acumen and business acumen, economic acumen, but are we able to also seize the opportunity
Mhm.
when it is out there? Can we
Mhm.
see it? Where do we want to focus? What do we want? First question is, do we know what we want? That's the start of leadership.
That's the most difficult question to answer, right? Yeah. Wow. I really love how you have actually not only defined but really described it. I would say in an intimate manner, right? How next normal is for you, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, we are still evolving. Everything is still evolving. Like what you've said, it's extreme VUCA. Decision making is no longer linear, and it's highly ambiguous. But what I really like most is the last part where you said opportunities are opening up, and that's a mindset, right? Not everyone, like, I mean, a lot of us were seeing the negative effects of the pandemic, or the difficulties that we are facing with this extreme VUCA and highly ambiguous world that we are, facing right now. And yet, what you've said is a great reminder for everyone that there's so much opportunities that are coming up out of these difficulties that are facing, right? So that's a great reminder. I love it. Thank you for that. And before I proceed to the next question, I just want to acknowledge some of our audience who's been joining us. Thank you so much, Muhammad, for your participation and support. Wonderful insight about the session and the questions as well. Well done, Marilyn. Keep it up. Thank you. And hi, Marikit. Hello, my friend. Finally, it's a battle. She always cannot find my my live. So yeah, first and foremost, yes. So and Surendra, wow, leadership to inspire the team to perform, upskill, yes, through skills, upskill, cooperation, healthy discipline, yes, like what also Shu-Tze has mentioned. And thank you for elaborating and sharing with us your insights. Thank you, Surendra, for joining us. And again, it's yes, it's a responsibility to transform and evolve. So thank you so much. Thank you for participating. I really love our audience right now. They've been really like sharing with us their take, their insights, and introducing themselves as well. So thank you. Continue to join us, and please post. I'm sure Shu-Tze would be willing to answer any of your questions. So despite that, I have already a lot of questions for her.
Let's see the question coming in. Yeah.
Yeah, so keep it coming. So from your experience as a corporate leader in different industries, and now working with a lot of corporate leaders from like more industries that you have been to, what would you say would be the top three problems that leaders would normally face?
Yeah, this is a very common questions that top consulting firm are asking their clients also.
Mm-hmm,
The most important, I mean, the most challenging that a lot of CEOs are saying is that
mm-hmm,
they are finding there's a huge need for leadership transformation.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, a lot of organizations are going through transformation from a technical to digital, to sustainability,
exactly.
merger acquisition, everything else, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Those are what we call the logic part of change, right? So through numbers, through data,
mm-hmm,
it's quite clear cut that the type of decision we need to make. But how do you bring along the heartbeat of the organization, which is the people, right?
exactly.
Yeah, and it's not just the internal employees and leaders, but also your clients, your stakeholders, your investor, your vendors, a
Mhm,
supplier, everyone. How do you bring them along to that new way forward, new way of doing things, doing business, collaboration, and things like that? That
mhm,
is, it has been said to be the hardest part of
mhm.
transformations that any organization are facing today. Yeah. In
True.
fact, 70% of respondent, these are like C-suite, CEOs level. Yeah. 70% of CEOs say the hardest challenge, yeah, the most difficult challenge that they are facing now is
Mhm,
transforming the organization's leadership, people, and culture. Yeah.
mhm.
So
Oh
this
yeah.
is the areas that I've been, focusing on the last 25 years of my life. So I'm really
True.
happy actually because it means opportunity. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
So is there anything more, or that's it? It's more on the leadership organization.
So that is the first one. The second one
Mhm.
is how do you actually transform and make sure that it is sustainable. So when
Yes.
we talk about organizations wide transformations, right? Especially when you look into organizations that has like, few thousand staff force or even hundred over thousand staff force in different
Right.
countries and
Mm-hmm.
different background and things like that. We can no longer talk about leadership by just sending them to training. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is important. It's still good to, it's still important to actually upgrade our leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it will not be able to sustain if the organization structure,
Mm-hmm.
their strategy, their process, their policy, if it doesn't change to support that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
True.
it's the entire transformations that includes, the business strategy to the way the organizations develop their capability, both technical and also people capability,
Mm-hmm.
right? Including their policies, including, the whole value change of the human value change, and from the
Exactly.
point of like attracting, hiring to, training,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what do you call that, succession planning, mobility, everything else, all the way to out. And also the way you choose to engage with your stakeholders. Who is your client? Who is your supplier that you want to work with? Who is the business partner you want to work with? There are
Mm-hmm.
certain clients we don't want them to be our clients too. Do you know who are they? Right? So do you have a criteria for those?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And what is, I mean, ultimately it all drills down to this. What is the purpose of the organization? What is your existence, existential questions, right? So why
Mm-hmm.
do you exist? What problems are you solving for the market that they are willing to pay you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how do you do it? So what are the values, yeah, that you stand by? What are the values that you do not tolerate, right, in your organization? How do you make sure that this permeates through everything that you do, from your people to the way you do your business to the way that you decide to go with or not going with a certain stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really great. Um, do I say that? Did I get it correctly? That's the third one, which is stakeholder management,
Yes, correct. Yeah.
which is the top problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wow, thank you. I really appreciate how clearly you have identified all these top problems, which really makes a lot of sense. And I think like leaders has to, like, pay attention to as well, right? And again, it's really the people that they have to consider when it comes to transformation, right? It The key will be, having all the transformation that involves the people, right? And therefore, despite that there's digital transformation, like what you said, data analytics and all those changes happening within the organization, you have to remember, or they have to remember, that leadership transformation has to be the heart of these changes going on within the organization. And that includes, like what you've mentioned, that has to include the organizational and the cultural, um, as well, aspects of the transformation, right? And of course, creating sustainability. I think this is like, I've been hearing this the most, I would say, in terms of sustainability. How can you actually grow in a constant or in a sustainable manner, being able to address everything? Because again, it has to be integrated, it has to be holistic, right? It doesn't really stop to, like, okay, this is our vision and all those stuff. It has to include that, when you transform, when you work on sustainability, you have to ensure that everything is in line, right? That's why they have to check on, like what you've mentioned, capability, the processes, the policies, has to be, has to be part
Line.
of all those changes. It has to be in alignment with those
Yes.
changes that are happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And last but not the least, of course, stakeholders management, right? And that includes employees, customers, and even the investors, and everyone in within the value chain, as you said, like, so I really appreciate this identification. And I really appreciate it more because you have explained it in such a way that I would say it's really easy to understand. Like, I mean, it's easy to understand, but I know it it takes work to to be able to actually implement it, right? So,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's the start of it. It's all about awareness, right? It starts from awareness and having this knowledge as well.
Mm.
uh, okay, so yeah, very interesting topic and what I need right now. Thank you so much, Manuel. I really appreciate that, you're finding this very helpful for yourself as well and timely, right? So that leads me to my next question. I mean, of course, we will not lead them with the problems, right? We wanted them to know, like, what do they actually need in order to address some of these problems through the
Yeah.
important leadership capabilities and skills that they must have in this next normal in order to continue to lead more effectively.
Mm. Yeah.
So, what are these?
Yeah. I do a lot of work in this area for the
Mhm,
past 20 plus years of my life. And a lot of my clients ask me these same questions, and usually they will come in and say, "Well, but we have this problem, our team are silos, the management don't support, The one in
mhm,
the middle will say management don't support. The one at the top will say the people at the, below them don't understand and not align with them and things like that. It's always these questions, right?
mhm,
um Reflecting back to the organizations that I've been with, companies like Citibank
mhm,
about 2 years ago when it was at its peak. Citibank in Malaysia then was known to be the most innovative bank in Malaysia.
mhm,
We are the one who put credit cards salespeople on the street to go and sell credit cards that everyone else follow. We are the one who came out with a paper about credit cards with airlines,
mhm,
these joint credit cards, right? Then today you have so many joint credit cards. Yeah, and I had the privilege to work under Piyush Gupta, and Piyush Gupta is currently the group CEOs of DBS, and DBS today is the most innovative bank that's going through transformation in the last 10 years, right?
mhm.
So there are a
Right.
lot of write-outs by McKinsey, MIT, Harvard, that talks about what DBS are going through. Now,
Mhm,
if you want to know how organizations went through transformation, go look at those research paper or interviews, yeah, with the
mhm,
leaders, because a lot of the things that is being done in DBS is something that we already been doing when we were in Citibank, when we were known as the most innovative in the
mhm,
market,
mhm,
right? And when I went to AIA, my last organization, it is the same thing that we did. All right.
mhm,
Now, what are the things that we did? The first thing is we have very clear vision and purpose of why we exist. What do we know? What is our mission in the world?
mhm,
Very clear, and we make sure that that is not just on the wall, but
mhm,
is in every town hall, every management meeting, including team leaders meeting. Because what we did was we actually put that out. We
mhm,
put it into a like a easy reference deck and
mhm,
hand it over to every leader so that they know why
mhm,
are we doing what we are doing. And
mhm,
when we set goal, it's all aligned back to this vision, purpose, and the 5 years vision that we had.
mhm,
Everyone knows about it and everyone understood why is it important. That's the first thing.
mhm,
Know where you are going, why is it important,
mhm.
right? The second thing what we did was we aligned everybody. Do you remember I mentioned about the value system, right?
Yes.
So that's where we translate value into competencies, yeah,
Mhm,
translate it into the type of behavior that we want,
mhm,
that we want to celebrate, that we want to grow. So
mhm,
we actually and that becomes our recruitment, our performance, and promotion succession guides, right? Does this person already have this type of or already displaying this type of behavior, right? This
mhm,
type of characteristic that we want at different level, very
mhm,
clear cut, and it's been measured. All right. Now the third thing is we make sure that everybody are trained in a way of thinking, right? So in Citibank, way back then, we do not have design thinking and such then, but we at way back we have TQM, we have Lean, right? So
mhm,
we them how to think lean, how to think, use lean Six Sigma way of looking at problems, finding
Mhm.
solutions, look at data, analyzing and prioritizing. All
Mhm.
right. And also I mean, make a calculated decisions. Every decision has risk. Which one do you take? Right. So we train everybody, including the secretary. All
Mhm.
right. When I was in AIA, which was my last organization, which was in the 2014 to 2016, we
Mhm.
did the same. We include the people who are working in the mail room. We use customer design thinking, right? And of course, today we have more tools. And
Mhm.
DBS did the same thing too. Every single one are trained in the way of looking at problem and finding solutions. All
Mhm.
right. And the last one is focus everybody on finding solutions or creating new product or services.
Mhm.
When we start to focus on problem and solve problem, we forget about I don't like you, you don't like me. Okay.
That's where the silos are coming from.
Yeah. So we work on a common goal together, right? Differences just passed away because we know why is it important to have that solutions, because it affects our survivalhood, our relevancy, our existence.
True. Mhm.
Okay, so it's very clear, very methodious in a way, right?
Mhm.
And at the same time, it just drive people to be excited about learning and creating, and working together. Now,
Mhm.
in the midst of it, are there people who hated the whole process, hated the whole vibes? Yes. I call it people who don't fit the culture, right? And they leave, right? You will have people who hate you and don't like your guts. It's
Mhm.
okay. What do you choose to be? What do you want? How do you want to achieve? All right. So do it and do it right. Yeah.
Wow, I love it. I love how you've actually identified all these important leadership skills and capabilities in order to thrive, right? Again, you've mentioned very clear vision and why they exist, right? It's really about knowing what's our purpose, why we are here, right? And again, putting that everywhere because a lot of companies probably are just doing it as a lip service, and what you've highlighted is really having it everywhere and walking that talk, right? And again, aligning every day with everyone, the value system, and the competencies as well. So everything that you do has to be aligned as well, right? On a daily basis, and then and for everyone as well, and of course training the way they should think as well. I think this is one of the biggest probably mistakes, or companies are missing out, I guess, is really like having that right mindset, and ensuring that everyone is aligned, solution based, like what you've mentioned, because otherwise there will be silos, right? And there will be pointing of fingers and all those stuff until everyone is aligned to like having that, yes, we're doing this for this common goal, and we focus on the solutions and not the problem, right? And again, everyone is aware on how do we do it, actually, how do we get about it, right? Because otherwise, like, if they're clueless, if they don't, like what you've said, that the usual comment from top management is that they don't understand, then it's your responsibility, as a leader, to make them understand, and for everyone to be able to easily follow it. It's really creating, like, about creating a system, right? And the process that everyone is in alignment, so that like everyone can follow, and it makes it more sustainable, right? Speaking
Yes.
of the one of the top problem of sustainability, unless there's a system, so whoever comes in, like, whe- whether people, or middle managers or top leaders leave, it's there because it's a system, right? And everyone has to follow. So thank you so much for making us understand that part of the usual challenges. Oh yeah, and Surrenda is also saying thanks on behalf of those organizations who really want to understand how to cope up with current
Mm.
turmoil, slowdown, and uncertainty. Yes, thank you. So that leads me to my last question, which is, what do you believe is the role of learning, leadership, and transformation in thriving in the next normal?
Mm.
That's a lot of thing, right? So,
Yeah.
but that's probably like an invitation to like summarize what we have just discussed in the last five questions.
Yeah. Yeah, following up to the questions to the CEOs, I mean, by the consulting organizations, right?
Mhm,
The follow-up question was like, where would they be focusing on in the next at least 3 years, 1 to 3 years, as we are anticipating a potential recession and probably a long recession. We don't know. Yeah, probably. A lot of the response from the CEOs and
mhm,
companies are they're actually focusing on learning, development, retraining their people, which through the many downturns that I've been through, right, working with great organizations during recession is where we actually spend a lot more money on training our people, right, preparing them for the next new after the recession.
mhm,
And L&D definitely play a huge role, but I
mhm,
must express this. I mean, through my the last few years, working with like companies, especially like from the L&D department, some of them will call and say, "Oh, Suzu, we need this," So
mhm,
every time when I ask the questions like, "What is your business need for this?"
mhm,
To my surprise, more than 50% couldn't answer that questions. Right. So, I mean, as a head of L&D, as a head of HR, if we do not understand the pain that and the threats that the company business is going through, we have no rights to be at the seats that we are. All
mhm,
right. So this is a calling to everyone who are in the human resource, and of course in any other functions, whatever that we are proposing, to our top management. I always say if our top management reject, there are something bigger picture that we haven't seen yet.
mhm, mhm,
I'm not bringing solutions where they are that's keeping them awake at night yet.
mhm,
So we
mhm,
have to understand from a business point of view, right?
mhm,
What are they facing? What are they worrying about? What do they want? Then only go and look for the right training, the right solutions, the right whatever, to help your organizations. Don't copy something because DBS is doing, because Citibank or AIA is doing. Okay. So
mhm,
know who you want to be as an organizations.
mhm,
Where is your gaps now? Because some company are struggling. Yeah,
mhm,
some are surviving, some are thriving. Yeah, so if you are at different state, you use different strategy, right? So know where
exactly.
you are now, where is your organizations now, right? In the whole global macro market, right? In your industry, because some industry are evolving, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And then only you look into your internal, what is the gaps, and find the right solutions, find the right L&D, the right tools, the right process, to help your organization forward. Yeah. Know your company. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that very important questions that you have raised, which I have actually summarized for the audience who just joined us in, right? These are very important questions they have to ask, right? And again, like, not only the top leaders or not only HR and L&D has the responsibility to make it happen, right? It's everyone's responsibility to work together in order to, like what you've said, understand what are the values they stand for, and how it permeates throughout the organization. What are the problems they're trying to solve? What do they want from
Mm,
now to, towards the future? And, what do they need to focus on in the next 3 years, like what you've mentioned? And, this is where consultants like us come in, right? Because it's interesting. I had that conversation first with Dave. I remembered you made mention, it depends on where you are now and where you want to go, and every organization is unique, right?
mhm.
So he said it doesn't matter like what the best practices are,
Yes.
unless it applies to you. And that's the more important thing, right? If it applies to you, right? And the other conversation I have, since you've also mentioned about TQM and all those stuff, I had this conversation with Marsha Dasco as well. And you mentioned like how are you actually like, asking all these questions as a consultant to your clients. And again, that's what makes it different, like when they engage third parties like us, right? Sometimes because of familiarity, they tend to forget to ask some of the questions. It's not really about how they answer the question, but it's really, are they asking those questions that we're trying to ask right now, right?
Yeah.
So those kind of things that gives value. And thank you, Marikit, for sharing this, very inspiring, and your guest is amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, that's been recognized, right? And thank you so much. And so that leads me to my last two questions now. And I really appreciate how you identify this clearly. Again, the last few question is so, I would say, juicy or meaty. And you've raised a lot of important, matters that are very clear,
Mm.
and really identified to the point. So I really appreciate that. And that leads me now to my last two questions, which I would normally call my Miss Universe questions, because these are really open questions. So I am really curious to know and to hear from you, how do you come up with the answers that you will give to these last two.
Mm.
So if you have a magic wand and can use it, what will you do with it?
For the word, I will say that I wished, you know, I mean, this sounds like an old mantra, right? I wish that, when we were in school, they actually teach us the principles of life. You
Mm,
know, when we were in school, they teach us the very basic life skills that is going to make us and break us, through
mm,
our life. And I've seen, I mean, just take a very, I mean, on top of leadership that we mentioned about, right?
mm,
But take another areas that is so important in our life, which is financial.
mhm. True.
Everyone who are thinking about changing job, coming out and do their own business or pivot or whatever, one of the thing, yeah, they will say that I want more time, for my family, for my loved ones. It's always about I want more time,
Mhm,
right? And which comes from I want to have a more stable financial status so that
mhm,
I do this, do that, do this, do that.
mhm,
Now, in my book, I actually wrote about this, why financial literacy are so important, because it actually teach a lot of principles in life,
mhm.
including delayed gratification, including respecting the rules and the laws, right? Your cash flow, your income expense, live within your means. I mean, things like that, right? So there are a lot of life lessons that are being trained when someone are, get good in their financial
Mm,
management, right? And
true.
when you are able to do that well, you are able to do that well in relationship management, because relationship is also about deposit, and deficits, right? Yeah, you are able to do well in your health. Is the same thing, same principles
Mhm,
applies, right? And you will do well in your work, in your job, in your business, because the same principles applies throughout so many areas of our life. So if there I have a magic one that I would want to change, I would want to change from the very start. Yeah, the education. Yeah, and
uh,
start from
mhm,
education from home. We don't have to wait for the school. We can
true.
start from, if you have kids, yeah, your children, get
Mm,
good at doing this thing yourself first, and then educate your children. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And that's where, parents have a huge role in, in helping their children like learn all these life lessons, like what you mentioned. And again, like, even without the magic wand, I'm sure this is what you have been doing. I mean, this conversation has been really a huge, wish most people would want to hear, right? And that's because of you. And again, the work that you have been doing also in your consulting work has been, transforming a lot of lives and people and organizations likewise, in terms of like how they actually have to make things better. I mean, sometimes we get to like restart, or like you mentioned, like, from foundation, or restart, or like help probably education system to improve, like by incorporating all these life lessons that, we wish we have also learned in the past, right? But I mean, through the work that we do, and hopefully through this conversation, like, some of the government leaders, or at least those who are in the education as well, space, that, will be able to help us make this a reality, right?
Mhm.
At least that's what we hope for. I guess you're not the only one person that I have heard, also wishing a
Mhm.
better education system. And from different countries, some more. I had like several conversation where, there's already a lot of realization around this space, that, we can be better, we can improve it, we can make or incorporate it into a more holistic type of education, right? So thank you for sharing your wish, and hope you get that as well, on top of the work that you do. And last but not the least, if you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be? And since you can best answer it, please do answer that for us as well.
Okay. Well, it is quite common that I won't say it's common. There's only like 20+% of people in the world who will
Mhm.
write their personal New Year resolution,
Okay.
revolution, right? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
or their annual plan, their personal life annual plan.
Mhm.
Um, I usually start doing that, start thinking about the next year, what I want to be
Mhm.
focusing on in the month of October itself. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, being corporate, we always do that. We usually start planning and study the market, anticipating the market like 6 months before the planning starts,
Mhm.
So I usually have a practice to start to meditate, thinking, ponder, reflect, of my New Year plan uh, from October, the last quarter. Yeah.
Mhm.
And this year, I mean last year, I decided to actually look into the next 10 years, come up with a
Wow.
10 years plan.
Mhm.
Yeah. So who do I want to be, when I am, 10 years from today, right? This year I'm going to turn 50. Yeah. So this 10 year is my 50s. I call it the 5 series journey. Yeah. So by the age 60 on my 60th birthday, right? Who do
Mhm.
I want to be? In the past, when I came out with plans like that, it's a lot of the role that I want to be, the house, the car, the whatever, the things that I want to achieve. But
True.
this round, when I sit down and actually start thinking and planning towards it, right? It's a lot of focus on the being. Who do I want to stand for? Who is this person that I want to be representing in this body of mine, right? Yeah. So because once that is defined, right, everything that we choose to do is how do we do it? That those values permeates, right? That you
True.
stand for what you believe in. It goes back to the very basic questions of what do I believe in? What do I want to project it to the world? What do I want to attract? It's not just me, but help allowing others to be able to do the same too.
Mhm.
you know and I learned this. I mean, in the 20s and 30s is more of like, I want to change the world, this is what I can do. Right. It's like focusing on being a better person, because I began to realize that as we continue to get good at what we do,
Mhm.
when you are on the right path, people will want are inspired to be on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no longer you changing the world, but you actually inspire many people to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's less burdensome than I want to change the world, but now it's we can change the world, right? Yeah. I mean, even the questions of yes, a lot of us wish our country's leaders would do more of this and that in education, healthcare, safety, but
Mm-hmm.
it starts from you and me.
Mm-hmm. True.
Can do it with ourselves first, with the community of people that we work with, from
Mm-hmm.
our home, right? Who is this person that you are proud to become, right? That you wish that you would have, that you wish for your country to have. Be that person first,
Mm-hmm.
right? Be that change that you want to see. Yeah.
That's really beautiful, and also like full of hope, I would say, because I mean, when you start about yourself, oh, this is the only person I can control most, right? The I mean, it's not easy, I would say. But again, the most that the person whom you have the most control and influence to is yourself, right? And so you have, I really love that message that you have to really like start from yourself, like making yourself better and becoming becoming the person who you want to be, right?
Mhm.
So that's really beautiful, and that's a really good question for everyone, for us to of us to ask, right? Of
Mhm.
who do we want to be, what values we want to permeate to the world, and how we want to contribute. Because at the end of the day, like when our heart is full, and where when our heart is satisfied with how much we actually also give, and how we become, is really like um living our purpose, right? And it's really the beauty of like really embracing that uniqueness in you as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
The rest is all the work that we have to do, right? Right, in
exactly.
whatever business that we choose to be in or work that we choose to be in, those are responsibilities, right?
True.
So when we hold the highest regards of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we hold the highest regards and ownerships to the results of our life,
Mm-hmm.
or the results of
True.
what we do or we choose not to do. Yeah.
Exactly. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate those message. And before we end this conversation, I just want to acknowledge again Marikit for supporting us. Uh, and she said you gave us so much value, which I totally agree with her. Again, it also includes personal branding, as she mentioned, and that's leadership, making a difference in what you do. Yes, and that's all about what Shu-Tze just mentioned, right? It's really about leadership, leading yourself, and really making good choices. So she is a great leader, Marilyn. Good choice. Thank you. Yeah, so I really appreciate that validation. Of course, we've been actually like planning this since we've met in December, because I really enjoyed our conversation. She brings like a lot of clarity, and like very on the spot uh like comments and suggestions as well. So that's the reason why I really have thought of bringing her in this conversation as well. So thank you so much. Is there anything more that you would like to share or leave our audience with before we end this conversation?
Um, well, my parting word will be this: live life, with its ups and downs. There will always be imperfection. Whatever that I've shared, right? It sounds like, wow, so easy and perfect. I can tell you the journey is not perfect at all. Okay? But we continue to move on. Now,
Mhm.
how do we get through every single day? Before you sleep at night every day, be grateful. Count your blessings. Just be thankful of even the breath that we have, right?
Mhm.
Food on the table, friends that we can meet up with, anything. Count your blessings at the end of the day. Gratefulness transforms a lot of things.
True.
Okay. So any problems that you are worried and want to solve, do it in the morning. The sun will help you. Okay. Tell you, I have so many solutions that just came to me when I'm out there doing my run in the morning. I love that. Every time after run, I got solution calling in already. Even business, a lot of my business came in on Monday morning when I'm out there running.
Wow, that's great.
So
I mean,
be grateful at night, and do what we must as a human. Be a
mhm,
good person, yeah, to
mhm,
each other, to one and to yourself, to each other.
mhm.
Yeah, the blessing will just come to you, just pour to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think someone asked of our contact details. So if you have any questions and you'd like to connect with us, feel free to connect with Marilyn at citysolutionsglobal.com. I can also like help you connect with Shu-Tze that way. But anyway, she's tagged in this conversation. So feel free to connect with us, subscribe with us on YouTube, and continue to join us in this journey to create more positivity, create more hope, and make this world a better place to live in, right? That's what we all hope for. And remember that even the richest investors in the world would say that investing in yourself is the best investment that you can ever make in your life. So again, I'm so grateful to have you, Shuchi, and I look forward to seeing you again on our mastermind in Kaulak.
Yeah, I'm
So
looking
that's gonna
forward
be soon. And also, I really appreciate all the insights, the hope, um, and all the valuable inputs, insights that you have shared today. So thank you so much again. And with that, we would like to leave our audience with this quote that if your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. Thank you for being an excellent leader, and thank you so much for your time again, Shutze. Bye for now, everyone, and stay safe. Tough situation is temporary. Tough people last forever. Thank you, Kit Kat, for that.
Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Bye for now.